So that we can make exact predictions using a trend line, we want to actually come up with the equation of a trend line. So in this case, we're going to be coming up with some equation that's in the form y equals mx plus b. And so to do that, I'm going to show you the steps that you need to take to find the slope of the trend line and the y-intercept of the trend line so that we can come up with an equation that works. So here are the steps to finding a trend line from 2 points. First thing you're going to do is you're going to find the slope of the 2 points using our formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're going to find our slope first. Then what we're going to do is we're going to plug whatever that slope that we get is from part 1 into the equation along with another point to solve for b, to solve for the y-intercept. And then at the very end, we're going to replace m and b with the values that we found from part 1 and part 2. So let's see an example of this. So we're given the typing speed based off of the number of weeks that are practiced. So what we need to do first is we need to find the slope. So to find the slope, we do y2 minus y1, so 101 minus 20, divided by x2 minus x1, subtract the x coordinates, 10 minus 1. That gives us 81 divided by 9, which gives us that our slope is 9. And then now we need to find b. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the equation y equals mx plus b. And we're going to plug some things in there. We're going to pick one point, and it doesn't matter which, so I'm just going to pick my first point. And from that point, we're going to take the x coordinate, which is 1, so that's x, and the y coordinate, which is 20, and we're going to plug them in to this equation for y and for x. And then we're going to use the slope that we just found, 9, to plug in for m. So we're replacing all 3 of these parts with actual numbers from this problem. So y is 20, m is 9, x is 1, and b is what we are trying to find. We're trying to find what the y-intercept is. So that's going to give us 20 equals 9 times 1 is 9 plus b. And so we're going to subtract 9 because we're trying to get b by itself. So we have to get rid of the 9, which gives us 11 is our b value. Which makes sense because if you look at our trend line, our y-intercept is somewhere below 20. So 11 would be a fair guess. So our final answer is the equation of the trend line, y equals mx plus b. And so that's the equation of our trend line. And so a question that you might be asked would be, what does the slope represent and what does the y-intercept represent? The slope is always going to be a per statement. So your words per minute increase by 9. Per week of practice. It's always how much y changes by per x. So weeks per minute per week of practice. And then your y-intercept is how much you have if you have no x at all, how much y you have. So you can type 11 words per minute if you don't practice at all. So slope is how much y increases by for each x, and the y-intercept is your initial amount, how much you have for no x increase. So you'll also be asked to use the equation to make a prediction. That's the whole reason we want an equation, is so that we can make a prediction. So the equation we just found was y equals 9x plus 11. So we're going to plug the value that they're asking us to make a prediction for into this equation. So they said predict your typing speed after 8 weeks of practice. So weeks of practice, that's my x variable. So I'm going to take 8 and plug it into my equation for x. So my equation is going to be y equals 9 times 8 weeks of practice plus 11, which makes sense because each week you practice, you type 9 words more. So if you type for 8 weeks, you're going to gain 72 words per minute, plus the 11 you would have had if you didn't practice at all. And that's going to tell us that after 8 weeks, you will type about 83 words per minute based off of our prediction, which if we look at our trend line, 8 weeks corresponds with just above 80, so 83 is a good prediction to get. All right, so sometimes when we find the equation, our slope is not going to be a whole number like the last one was. So sometimes we're going to have to round to the nearest hundredth. So let's find the equation of the trend line first by finding our slope. That's always our first step. So our slope is change in y, so y2 minus y1, 91 minus 41, over change in x, 8 minus 2. That's going to give me 50 divided by 6, which we're going to plug in our calculator to see what we get. And when we do 50 divided by 6, we get 8.33333, which we're going to round to 8.33. Hundredths is 2 decimal places. Now, our second step is to find the y-intercept. So we're going to take our equation, y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug 8.33 in for our slope, and then we're going to pick one point. It doesn't matter which point. So I picked the first one last time. I'm going to pick the second one this time. And I'm going to plug 8, which is the x coordinate, in for x, and 91, which is the y coordinate, in for y. And I'm going to get 91 equals 8.33 times x, which is 8, and then plus whatever my initial value is. So let's see what we get when we multiply 8.33 times 8. So we're going to plug that in our calculator. That gives me that 91 is equal to, these multiply together to be 66.64 plus b. And then I've got to get b by itself, so I subtract 66.64 from both sides. 91 minus 66.64 is 24.36. So my equation, now that I know b and now that I know m, my equation is y equals 8.33x plus 24.36. And so they want to know, if the tree is 4 years old, how tall will the tree be? So age is the x value. So I'm going to take 4 and replace x with it. So I'm going to get y equals 8.33. That's how much height the tree gains per year, times 4 years, plus 24.36. 24.36 is going to be the initial height. And if I plug that in my calculator, I get 8.33 times 4 years plus 24.36. I get that the height is going to be around 57.68, and this is measured in centimeters. So my label is centimeters, which makes sense because if I go up to my trend line 4 years, right below 60, so 57, I think would be a fair guess. Let's try one last one. So let's write the trend line. And let's do that first by finding the slope. So let's find the slope between these 2 points. So the slope is y2 minus y1, so subtract the y coordinates, over x2 minus x1. That gives me negative 12 over 3, which gives me negative 4. So my slope is negative 4. So I'm going to take that and plug that in to y equals mx plus b. So negative 4 is my m value, so it goes in for m. And then I'm going to pick one of my points, so I'll just pick the first one. 1 is my x value, so that's going to go into the equation where x is. 91 is my y value, so that's going to go in for my y. And I'm going to get 91 equals negative 4 times 1 plus whatever b is. So 91 equals negative 4 and 1 multiplied to be negative 4. And then I just have to solve for b by adding 4 to both sides. So I get that the y-intercept, or b, is 95, which if I look at my trend line, sure, that makes sense. Right above 90 is my y-intercept, so 95 is a fair guess. And so my equation is y equals negative 4x plus 95. So what that tells me, the negative 4 means that my test score decreases by 4 per hour of TV watched. So each hour of TV that I watch, my score is going to go down 4 points on average. And then 95 is my test score, my initial test score, if I don't watch TV. So if no TV is watched. Okay, so one last question. Let's predict our test score if we watch 6 hours of TV. So 6 hours of TV watched is the x value. So we're going to replace x with 6 to get y equals, your test score goes down 4 points for every hour you watch TV. So it's going to be negative 4 times 6 hours, and you start with a test score of 95 if you don't watch any TV on average. So negative 4 times 6 is negative 24. So you would lose 24 points watching that much TV off of your original 95 that you would get with no TV watched. So you could predict that your test score is going to be a 71 if you watch 6 hours of TV.